Hello, everyone. How are you? I am Violet Lee, your Tai Chi examiner. Today is my pleasure again. Yes. And I have my good friend, Sifu Bill Donnelly here with us. And you probably saw my previous interview with Bill. And you understand that Bill always have some very interesting, profound thoughts and share with us. And in case you not familiar with what Bill Donnelly has accomplished in life, then here's a little introduction. And Bill, and he is a musician. Yes, he is a musician. He plays frequently in some places in New York. And if you are interested in what he plays, you can go to his website or just drop a note underneath this interview. And also, he is an entrepreneur, and he is a coach for people at high places, especially in the financial industry. And outside that, he is a martial artist and Tai Chi practitioner. He has wrote a few books, including In My Hands. Two very nice, and well, nice probably is not a good enough word and to describe these books. And the first one is called The Inner Secrets. And last time, and after I wrote about the book, I did a review of the book, and some people they purchased and they said, "Wow, it's really really profound." And many told me, say, they kind of keep the book handy around. And then when they practice, after they practice a while, they will go back to the book. And then they say, they can really understand what's being said in the book. And they can resonate better and they can understand better. So very good. And another book is see, this text I had put on the book, and as I reviewed the book, and I thought, oh, this is cool, this is neat, and I put a sticker there, and I put another sticker there, so it's all over. This is more like a workbook, and I think this is probably a first book, and I have found in the Tai Chi area, and it actually helped people how to improve their practice. So it has a lot of space in the book, and then asks people to write down how they feel. And I think you will find out as your knowledge about Tai Chi Chuan improve and your skill elevated, you probably will put on different notes. So again, another book for you to keep around handy. Okay. And so today, the reason I have Bill here, and I want to ask him something, which I did not really drill down with him before, because on this back jacket of the book, it says, living in the 21st century raises the heart and the mind. Oh, sure, can I feel that? Yes, you bet. Even I practice Tai Chi Chuan, I still feel that. War and terrorism, healthcare challenges, rapid economic shifts, and accelerating technology have disturbed the mental, physical, and physical health of all of us, regardless of age or status. And this book came out like a little bit over 2 years ago, 2023. And when I'm reading this again, I feel a lot of these elements, this condition, it's not getting better, right? it's I don't really want to use the word worse, but it's getting a lot more challenging for us. And some of you probably say, oh my God, today's discussion is going to be very, how should I say, heavy and very serious. Do I really want to listen to this or not? So, but don't be worried. I think was the way Bill sees the world as a way he can really analyze things, and we will have a different experience, right? Say hello, Bill, to the audience. I'm sorry I have such a long introduction about today's episode.
It's okay. Thank you, and it's great to see you and to be back. Thanks for having me as a guest again. Um, yeah, I think that you're right that a lot of the challenges that exist right now are serious, and 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 can demand a lot of us. Um, but I think it's also up to us to decide how we want to respond to those challenges. So, um, you know, I thank you for reading the back jacket of Inner Secrets. When I wrote that 2 years ago, um, we were in an environment where these things existed in terms of wars, rapid changing economics, uh, a rancorous government. One of the things that I pointed out a little further down in that paragraph is that these conditions have always existed. And so it's usually out of strife or the most challenging and maybe worse times that we have the opportunity to create something new. And I think that Tai Chi, the Tao Te Ching, and many of the greatest works of art from the East or the West actually came uh, during times of great turmoil. So I am optimistic about that. Um, what I am endeavoring to do in my own life is to take each of those different elements and kind of break them down and try to understand them a little bit more. For me, when I think about Tai Chi and studying and practicing it, it's not necessarily something that I just want to train for an hour or go to the dojo and train for an hour or teach someone and then leave and go back to my other life. I want to continually try to integrate the two. And so what I try to think about is how can this art contribute to these different facets of our lives that we all share. Today, I thought it would be really informative, hopefully, to talk about the healthcare industry. Um, you know, that's clearly going through a lot of changes. It's probably one of the most discussed topics, at least among people that I know. You see it on the news, it's constantly being debated. And there are a lot of changes going on that I'll touch on maybe a little bit later. But to start, I started to look at kind of what the state of the industry is right now. And some of it was a little surprising to me. We all are maybe not happy with how much we're paying out of pocket for healthcare. Um, and I found numbers um, that I'm going to read. They came from different sources that I didn't include here today, but I can certainly produce some of this evidence if needed. But as of 2023, when it came to healthcare spending, the government is actually the largest spender, 32%. And they're spending on average over $1.5 billion a year on healthcare, which is followed by individual households, which accounts for about 27% and $1.3 billion a year. Private business, a little less than $1 billion, about 894. And state and local government is about 760 billion. And then you've got about 320 billion coming from private revenue. But combined annualized spending on healthcare is well over $1 trillion a year. And
Yeah. Go ahead,
that's
sorry.
shocking. No, it's okay. You know, healthcare spending is out. It's outpacing our GDP, gross domestic product, and that's where it starts to really demand more attention. Now, the challenges of the healthcare system is that they have financial pressure there for a variety of reasons. There is inflation, that's part of it. There is a labor shortage, doctors, nurses, and um, I learned that Medicaid and Medicare enrollment is going up, especially as the baby boomers are aging out. So that puts stress on the system as well. Drug products, their price increases have been, in many cases, at least 15% a year. And I think 46% of them, their price increases were higher than the rate of inflation. So we could see all of this is kind of getting ahead of us. And as a result, more than half Americans are starting to struggle to afford quality health care. 60% are concerned that they're not going to be able to have health care going forward. And in some cases, people are having to work their jobs later in life because they need it to pay for their health care. So,
yeah, definitely.
right?
Yeah.
And so, and in a lot of cases, the healthcare is eating up a lot of wages. So, okay, so that's the bad news. There are
Yes,
myriad
and
problems.
yeah, thank you very much for pointing out the issue. Yes, the latest forecast for 2026 and the government forecast, and we will spend 18.6% of, as you say, the GDP gross yeah, gross domestic product. I should know that. I major in economics. I should remember that at the back of my hand. But okay, and I was just a little bit tongue-tied. And what does that mean is out of $100 we earn, country as a whole, we spend 18.6%. Then almost like 1 out of $5 is on medicine, right? And then, however, in comparison with other developed countries, our, how should I say, the healthcare and it's not really better than the other countries. And we look at the longevities and so forth. We are not. So we are spending money not wisely. And you mentioned things like the medicine, the pharmaceutical prices. They outpace the inflation and outpace the income growth. So this is really something for all of us to think deeply about it. And yeah, but me as a little citizen, I cannot control the insurance industry, and I cannot worry about how the system be managed. So what can I do to improve the situation? If not for everyone else, how about for myself?
Yeah,
I think a lot of people is asking that questions themselves when they hear you talk like that.
absolutely, and that's kind of where I came down too. Wow, what are we going to do to fix that is long, it's complicated, and it's challenging. And that's even assuming that the political and private will is there to do it. So to me, there is the other component, and that is us. It's the patient. And I think while we must recognize that there are people that have serious disease and maladies that require treatment, I would also think that there's a certain amount of people who have come to rely on the healthcare system as kind of a quick fix medication for a lot of things. And I think it's the reliance is where we surrender control of our own healthcare. You know, I started thinking of a term, and I think Tai Chi really embodies it. We'll talk about it more later, but instead of relying on the healthcare practice, started thinking about self-health. Not necessarily self-help, but self-health. How can we be more healthy? I remember reading an article years ago that in 1950s China, there was a population explosion. There was also a change in government. And with that change in government, a lot of doctors were emigrating out of China. And it created huge stress on the system. And so one of the ways that the Chinese government addressed that is depending on the severity of the illness of the patient, they were actually giving them coupons and sending them to local Tai Chi and Qigong instructors. And so the patient would engage in a certain amount of training, and if they needed further treatment, you know, if it was next level in terms of seriousness, then they would go to a doctor. But what they found was that a lot of patients, after they started training, really didn't need to go back to that doctor, and it allowed them to alleviate the demand and fix what was broken.
That's amazing. I did not even know that part of the history. And since you mentioned about using Tai Chi and Qigong as a way to treat the illness, and everybody, we all went through the COVID-19, right? And then so at the beginning, there was no medicine whatsoever. And the one thing the Chinese government did was they are encouraging all the citizens. Of course, not everybody did that, but they encourage the citizens to practice two things. One is Tai Chi Chuan, another one is 8 sections of brocade, and yes, 八段锦. And we know the deaths in China from COVID is percentage-wise probably lower than the U.S. And of course, they were wearing masks, and they also did a lot of so-called isolation things. But practicing the healing art definitely can harness our immunity, can improve our health. And yeah, it is very good you mentioned about that. And thank you very much.
Yeah, you know, I'm finding that we are starting to see some of that here. You know, the Harvard Medical School Guide to Tai Chi under the direction of Dr. Peter Wayne, you know, to me is really bringing, yeah, there it is. I mean, it's a fantastic book. And, you know, boy, if there was anybody in the West who had any kind of doubts about the effectiveness of Tai Chi, I would encourage them to look at that book.
Yes, wonderful. And I attended the 2023, the first science conference. Is called the Science of Tai Chi and Qigong as whole person. Whole person. Here is the key: whole person health. And this was, how should I say, sponsored by OSHA Center for Integrative Medicine. and Harvard Medical School. And so during that time, and the VA hospital system, and they were there and to did a very interesting presentation, and they show us actually how effective in the Tai Chi Chuan actually helped our veterans for all different kinds of illnesses. And so right now, many of the VA systems, so they would, how should I say, the doctor would prescribe to patients, say, you can go to practice Tai Chi. And the VA insurance will pay for that. However, outside the VA, I don't think that any private insurance companies actually reimburse you for your Tai Chi practices. But at the same time, if you're paying for the lesson, it's much less than you will pay for going to see a doctor, the physical therapies and the medicine, right? It will be so much cheaper. And a lot of times people think, it's easy, just pop a pill, like we see the commercial, TV commercial, and they show you, you pop a couple of the painkillers, then you go there to do whatever you need to, right? And sounds like miracle pills, and you don't have to spend the time, but that has a side effect. And but a lot of time people end up much worse. They spend time to go to see doctor. They have to go to physical therapy. That costs time, right? And not to mention the money. But so you have the time to practice something you can enjoy also, not just to say, cure your illnesses. What do you think?
No, I agree with everything that you just said. And what I found, we're just touching back on Harvard for a moment, that they are building a peer-reviewed database of studies. I would not be surprised if at some point it does start to bleed into the insurance companies' reimbursement programs. I think we could all benefit from that. But I think that you mentioned prescribing pills, and how it addresses the one problem with an acute solution. But I see the ads for prescription drugs on TV, and if it's a 60-second ad, it's 15 seconds pitching the product and 45 seconds talking about all the potential side effects, which are scary. It's not something that I prefer not to. And in fact, when my doctor says, he wants to prescribe a pill, I say, doctor, my best drug days are behind me. I really don't want to take these unless I really have to. And at my stage of life, I'm not taking any kind of medicines right now, and I think some of it might be because of genetics, but I think it's also very much lifestyle. So one of the things that you and I have talked about before, and I think it was, we were talking about whether Tai Chi was an exercise or not. And one of the things that we were talking about were how people work on their external physique. They build their muscles, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily healthy. And I think expanding on that for today's conversation, to maybe move it in a little different direction, I think that one of the reasons why we were discussing that, as you know, in Chinese Qigong theory, they actually believe that many of the illnesses are caused by an imbalance in the mind. And I think that that's something that's really worth investigating. And I think that I think by working on that or toward that end, that could be a huge game changer for people. So when I'm explaining this to students, basically what I try to explain is that our mind uses intention to direct the energy. And that if we're in a heightened emotional state, could be a fight or flight response, then that heightened emotional state may direct our energy improperly or to a part of our body, an organ, for instance, that could be damaged if we continue to do this over time. And so, what does that mean, right? If we understand as internal practitioners what intention, energy, and the relation to organs mean, but sometimes for beginners, they don't quite get their head around that because it sounds a little abstract. So what I was using recently to describe to somebody is like, okay, let's say you want to grab a glass of water. You have to use your mind and your intention to move the energy through your arm to your hand to grasp the glass to bring it back to you so you can drink the water. So you're applying that intention and energy to drive an effect. But when was the last time you were in a kitchen and maybe turned quickly and your hand hit a glass and knocked it over and spilled the water on the counter? Okay, so what happened then? Did you intend to do it? Of course not. There was no intention. And when there was an intention, the energy was misdirected and it had a negative result. And so that's, I think, illustrates what we're also doing within our own body.
I like how you put it in a very understandable way because yes, we in Tai Chi training we say 意道, 意 means intent, 道 means arrive, 气 means the life force or the energy and will arrive. And so it is always challenging for me as an instructor to explain that very well or clear. And but you just did it. So in the future, I'm going to use your way of to describing it. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Yeah, I kind of tripped on that, and I thought that really does sum it up. And so, so then to take that further, that's the East, and again, Westerners can be skeptical of that. But are you familiar with a book called The Anatomy of Illness by Norman
Uh,
Cousins? So, The Anatomy of Illness by Norman Cousins is it was a best-selling book. And it really was one of the books. I think they even made a movie about it, or about Norman Cousins, because he was really starting to talk about self-healing. And the overall theme of that book is that the patient must accept responsibility for their own recovery. And what he was talking about was that a patient's recovery is based on their own mechanisms, and that societies existed, even more than 100 or 150 years ago, had very effective methods of healing and did not have a lot of pharmaceuticals. And I would say that that has to be true because we're all still here. We would be extinct if we only relied on pharmaceuticals. And he speaks about how the systems of the body that are receptive to the effects of medication, it's those same systems that are actually receptive to other healing modalities. And he points out, Zen yoga meditation, Zen yoga meditation as having the same impact as medication. Why I like Tai Chi is that it has the Zen properties of meditation. It has the yogic properties as well, all combined into one system. And so, to me, I think that the Western thought does support a lot of what, Chinese Qigong theory has been talking about for a long time.
Very good. Well, everyone, they're watching this interview, and if you're not familiar with the book, I will put the book information below, so you can find it if you're interested reading the book. And yeah, I read the book back a while ago. So when you first mentioned it, oh yeah, I think I did it, and that's very, very good. Yeah, very important. And just a few minutes ago, and you're talking about the philosophical part, and about the practice, right? The Tai Chi and Qigong practice, and I, it dawned on me. And nowadays, a lot of people are really, really scared because of AI, right?
Yes.
And I have heard a lot of graduates study computer science are having a hard time to find a job because unless you do very, very high level computer work, and some more basic type of task can be taken over by AI. And then this also is not just in the IT industry, it's also in many others. So a lot of time, and people really worry about it. So I guess in 2023, when this book came out, oh no, not this book. Yeah, this book came out, and AI was not that prevalent. We heard that, but at most we just did a little bit chat GPT, and that's convenient. But now they are going to eat our not just lunch, probably dinner as well, right? So you got a lot of people worried. And so you were talking about the practice of the healing art. It will help us to improve our health. But I think you also touch upon something. I think it's maybe relates to the consciousness. And to me, that is the part AI probably cannot take over in the near future at all, right? And then so what do you think about it? What's your thought on this?
I've thought quite a lot about it, and I think getting back to the phrase which has almost become cliche in the healing arts with the mind body practice. I think that's been kind of tossed around so much that it doesn't mean much to people, but I would argue that it is actually something that deserves more than just being mentioned casually. That there is real practical thought behind that, and so I think that it is thoughts and feelings that creates mental imbalances. Even if they're subtle, it could be something as subtle as just envy, or desire, or anger. Um, but I think what happens a lot of times is that as um, people are behaving with these types of responses or drives over a long period of time, it becomes part of who they are, right? It becomes part of their personality. But if those are damaging thoughts, then they're influencing decisions. They may be influencing choices. In other words, if it's a person who tends to be angry all the time, maybe they're medicating themselves, or maybe they're drinking alcohol, which will then, as we know, will impact the liver or the kidneys, right? So there is where a certain emotional state is driving a thought process, which is creating a habit, which is creating a health effect. And it may not, your health may not crash over the weekend, but if you do that for 10, 20, 25, 30 years, certainly that will add up, and which is, I think, what we're really talking about here. I think that it's important to also remember that when we react to certain things, stressful situations or conflict, for instance, that where there's a reaction, there's also a chemical reaction in our bodies. And that changes the biochemical makeup that's happening within our own kind of ecosystem. And that does have an effect on our bodies as well. So what I would challenge most people is to really rethink any conditions that they have that they've been willing to accept as being just who they are, whether that's a medical condition or a mental condition. You know, psychiatrists, for instance, tend to say, oh, you have ADHD, or you have this, or you have that. I don't think that they're labeling this person or giving them a terminal verdict. They're classifying a condition. It doesn't mean that it's a fixed condition, but I do believe that a lot of people accept it as a fixed condition or a destination, and then that becomes part of who they are, even though they have the ability to change it. But if they don't think they can change it, then what do? Then they fall back onto drugs and medication and all these different things, which is great for the healthcare industry, and it's horrible for the person.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yes, a lot of time we just want a quick fix, and then you're talking about Tai Chi Chuan is great for the mind and the body, and it's badly needed nowadays. So, how much practices you think people should do?
Well, I've seen people practice as little as 20 minutes a day and be okay with that. I tend to do about an hour each day, because I feel that it really gets me into the mental and physical space that I want to be in. Um, I have students that kind of move anywhere between the two, 20 minutes to 60 minutes a day. But what I would say is that the ones that practice more are happier. I do work with some students that are, for the most part, their lives are okay, but there are others that they have challenges. They have physical challenges, where they've gone through some sort of trauma that they're trying to get out of. Anxiety has been a huge driver for people to seek out something like Tai Chi. And a lot of what I'm talking about today, I think, speaks very much to, how to counter anxiety. But I think that one of the things is that maybe not so much the time, but the attention that the person is putting in while they're practicing is maybe more important. And I watched a podcast that you recently did with Susan Axelrod, where you're talking about practicing from the heart. And I really thought that was a profound statement, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I think that one of the ways we can all be better is to first be honest with ourselves, realize where we are maybe not perfect, and out of that, maybe we're a little bit more compassionate and we lead from the heart. And out of that, it elevates our spirit and our energy, love. And I think that with that heightened energy, our immunity is much higher. I think of anybody, right? That anybody who's led from the heart generally have healthier, happier, and longer lives.
I can agree with you more on that. Yeah, definitely. Yes, it's very important, and it's it's interesting, and many of my students, especially in recent years, and a lot of came to me is all because of some kind of physical issue, health issues, and I wish, I don't know about you, and you mentioned some people it's because of the stress or the things like that, the more mental things. For me, I just hope they can come to me before they get to the point. Either it's the physical or the mental issue, and then maybe they never have to get to that stage, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure you've experienced this, but when I start working with people that come to me, and they're at a crisis point, um, and we can start kind of backing them away from the ledge, and they start to really feel the changes. It's for me, it's one of the most gratifying things to witness, because I watch them start to light up again. You know, um, there are some where I see them at the beginning of the class and they've got a frown, their heads down, they had a bad week, you know, they're complaining, but at the end of the class, you're like, I feel great. And in an hour, if you can make that kind of change, um, imagine what would happen if you did it every day.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting you use the word gratifying. And I mean, you you work with a lot of people with very, very high status in the society, right? And I'm pretty sure that your day job and help you to secure a very comfortable lifestyle. However, you will use the word gratifying when you are working with people, teaching people Tai Chi. And, I have to echo that too. And for me, we all know we don't make a lot of money at all, or any money teaching Tai Chi, but the satisfaction is beyond words, right? And
Yeah,
it's very, very good. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
I agree with you. You know, I'm not a scientist. You know, I was quoting some statistics at the beginning, but I'm not a scientist. And really, when it comes to my health, I don't need to be scientifically
But you
told
are
how.
well read. You're well read. You read and not just something about your business, and you're good at it. It's not just about Tai Chi. I know you read religion, spiritual related stuff. You read philosophical type of things, and then you also read about something on the science side. Yeah, you're well read.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
You're right. But the point is that I don't need science to tell me how to live better. I certainly don't want to be told by a political appointee how to live better. I don't want to be directed by enterprise religions on how to live better. What I want to live to is a healthy feeling, and if that feeling means I need to do what feels right. That's what I try to teach. And how do we discover that feeling? I think Tai Chi really is one of the most holistically effective wellness systems that I can think of. Um, Especially, it's worth considering, considering everything that is going on in the healthcare industry. Um, so let's just think about, food, right? We know that the foods we put in our bodies, they have preservatives, they have a certain amount of toxins. I'm countering some of that by shopping at like a local vegetable stand. I'm trying to buy local as much as I can, but we can't do that for everything. Um, and certainly I can't start farming because I can't even keep a cactus alive. But we can do is a daily exercise that would detox our bodies, right? And so we know that Tai Chi and Qigong and the Qigong effects of Tai Chi will help us remove waste and toxins, right, and damaged cells to the body. So, that is a way. If we can't maybe alter the intake of preservatives, at least Tai Chi can help us uh, get rid of it.
Very, very good. Thank you for mentioning that. And I'm how should I say, a junkie when it comes to reading the scientific studies. Yes, I have read so many of them. I don't remember exactly which one, okay? But just some studies shows with the practice, it actually tune our body, like you say, detoxing our body. It makes our body a better machine or whatever you want to call it, so it can process the toxin or whatever things, much more efficient and effective. So I can eat that potato chips later.
Absolutely.
for Super Bowl. Yes, I can do that.
I like my potato chips, and a little wine every once in a while.
Yes.
I
I
like that.
definitely race for the occasion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm Irish. I have to. It's part of my my makeup. But so we're talking about pollutants too, Violet. But you know what I think is more of a pollutant right now? Like it used to be air pollution. Was big in the United States, right? We cleaned that up. The food had a lot of toxins or preservatives in it. I think that they've done a little better job of cleaning it up. But you know what I think is the worst toxin right now?
What it is.
Mental toxins. And by that, what I'm talking
Oh.
mental pollution caused by cell phones, social media, um, yeah, Facebook, X, TikTok, cable news shows that are unregulated and so can put out there whatever they want and often segue into personal editorials for the sole purpose of dividing, inflaming people.
Mhm.
um, I think that's probably one of the most toxic developments in the last 20 years that we can control. And I was thinking about this. When our mind is subjected to an onslaught of information, um, let's say information, conjecture, opinions, when it's constant, the mind has to protect itself. And so what does it do? It closes. And when the mind closes, then it also means it's not generating any original thought. And so if the mind is not generating original thought, then what is the source of the thinking? The source of our thinking then becomes all the things that are being fed to us. And if it's not our own thinking, then how can we trust that? Right? That's, I think, one of the biggest health crises we really have right now. And so if we were to wean ourselves off of that constancy of information, I do think we need to inform ourselves, but that constant reliance on it, if we start our day, and how many people first thing they do is check their cell phones in the morning, or first thing they do is put on the news, and it could be a preferred news channel which will feed the
Mhm.
monster, or feed the wolf. Well, what if that same person were to wake in the morning and have no sound, and maybe just make that cup of coffee or have breakfast and move through the house quietly? What I would, what I would, my experience is that when those things happen, that's when the mind will open up. And when the mind opens, then there's an opening of intelligence. That opening of intelligence is where we're going to ask ourselves the most important questions for ourselves, and we're going to generate the answers that are most important to us. And that's going to then help us make the decisions and create the habits that are ultimately going to be healthy for us. And it's all self-directed and self-generated.
Wow, that's incredible. You know what? I think you just helped me to connect the dots in my head. And when I look at you, okay, as I talked about previously, you work in, you're an entrepreneur, you work in the corporate sphere area, and then you help a lot of people to be successful. And then you're a musician yourself, and then you're a martial artist, and you teach Tai Chi and Qigong. And I just always thought, where did he find so much time and energy still to write? Right? And I just get the answer. I think you told me before, I don't know if you still do that. And you say early in the morning, you will meditate, right? And then, so I guess that just set your day right and calm yourself down. And yeah, I don't know if I'm right about this, connecting the dots, but I think it really attributes to your ability to think outside the box and then to be able to think really profoundly and write beautifully.
Thank
And
you. And I
yeah,
agree.
as a matter of fact, I remember there are a few other people I interviewed with, and they all told me first things they do is meditate. And of course, I know you do both type of meditation. Tai Chi is a form of meditation. You also do the standing pose, which is a standstill Tai Chi type of a meditation, right? So maybe I need to do more 站桩 myself.
Well, but I think that I think we live similarly. Um, I
Well,
think,
I'm just not good at doing the standing meditation, and I need to do more of that. That's for sure.
it's hard. It's hard.
It is
And,
hard. It is
I,
hard.
yeah, I've tried to teach it to people or share it and say, because I've talked to people recently who are having someone that I know who had back surgery that it didn't really go well. And they're in pain and they really can't exercise at a gym. And they're starting to feel the effects of that. And I said, you might want to check this out because it's an exercise, but you really don't have to do anything. I know it sounds weird, but if you give it a shot and give it a little bit of time, I think you'll find it pays off. And someone else who's having chronic headaches, I'm actually one of the things I'm observing is that a lot of young people, and I'm saying young teens, are really struggling right now to the point where their nervous systems are so out of whack that they're starting to move into having seizures. And they're going to neurologists and they're doing all these tests. But I would submit that unless there has been some sort of event or accident that might have caused a physical change, that a lot of it is coming from how
Lack
they're
of sleep.
receiving. Yeah, lack of sleep, absolutely. How
Yeah.
they're,
Mm-hmm.
the stimulus they're receiving, the pressures, um, all those things, which I think, standing meditation, Tai Chi, for a couple of months, I think would actually reverse that. I've worked with people, adults that used to wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks and go to the hospital nightly for panic attacks, and got rid of it using these methods. So, I think it's really, it's such a profound practice. But, the other thing that we haven't touched on, because we've talked about now the mental and the physical, but there's also the philosophical benefits of Tai Chi, and how could that possibly help somebody's health? When I think about Taoism, I think a lot of people have dismissed philosophy and religion over the last, kind of era, because they dismiss it as arcane, irrelevant. In some cases, it might be camouflage for a hidden agenda of some sort. And while that's partially true, I think the roots of those systems actually have value. Um, Taoism appeals to me because it's godless. It's based on universal natural laws. And it hasn't been, and maybe never will be, vulnerable to appropriation or abuse or leverage for power, because you really can't with Taoism. It's just something that exists that we can learn from, but you cannot use it. So what I found when I started to really study and understand Taoism better, it became a way that I can interpret events, and it became a form of guidance. One of the things that I love about the Tao Te Ching, and which makes it, to me, one of the most brilliant documents, is that it's written so poetically that it can be interpreted in many different ways at different levels, and it allows the person to personalize what those lessons are. And again, it brings them back to self-directing, which I think is probably the one thing that is most missing from people these days, and is probably one of the root causes of all the maladies and illnesses that are forcing us to go seek doctors and prescription medicine and pay huge healthcare bills. I think we have to go to doctors for some things, but I think we're using them much more than we need to.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Bill, sharing that thought. It's amazing, and yeah, again, I guess because you're doing the 站桩, your mind is unbelievable. You can think so much more in a philosophical way, but it actually is very applicable to people's life, right? I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you're always very busy, and you taught a class and ran here and to speak with us. But I do want to share a story with you and everyone there watching. And it was just today, and somebody told me, said he had a knee problem at the age 90. And the doctor said he needs surgery, but he decided, I don't know what was the reason, he did not get a surgery. And whether he killed himself, solve his knee problem, was by doing standing meditation. It was amazing. So yes, like you say, standing meditation, 站桩, has so many health benefits. Like you say, some people, they think they're not physically strong and they not be able to do it, but actually it's how strong is the mind. I told that person, I said, you're so much better than me. I say, you must have very strong mind and the self-discipline. I just don't do well myself. So, Bill, I know it's take too much of your time, but if you can find time again and come back to us, I always enjoy our conversation. Maybe I should say enjoying listening to you because you can always spill out so many great thoughts and inspire me to think deeper and to understand the art more, even though I myself also practice, but a lot of time, and that what you said, and it really, trigger me or inspire me so much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I always enjoy speaking with you too, and I look forward to doing it again.
Okay, well, thank you so much.